Let me know if you can hear.
The Fat Boss Guide to the Spirit Kings, 25-man heroic in the Mogushan Vault.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, in this fight, it
Yep.
hasn't actually changed too much, really. And because it hasn't changed that much, make sure, if you haven't seen our normal mode guide, then do go and click up on the screen, because we're not going to be covering all the normal mode stuff again, because the bosses have one new ability, and they do one new different thing, but otherwise everything else is the same.
Yeah, so make sure that you go see the 25-man normal guide on your annotation now.
Yeah, it's rather.
For this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 5 healers, and a
This guy playing like there's still a
Like
dead
I said,
zone.
There isn't any major changes apart from one extra ability that's been added.
Yes, and the new ability, like each one of the abilities that the bosses
keep
get is
playing
kind of like an
too.
Omnitron style shield. Like, i.e., if you hit it and while it's active, you'll either wipe the raid or fuck something up horribly. However, each one of these can be dispelled or de-enraged or just generally stopped from happening. So we're going to go through each boss and what their new shield or thing it is.
So Chang's new ability is the Impervious Shield, and this is essentially a counter-attack. If you hit him while the shield is active, you'll get hit.
Yeah, and that's of course bad because he's doing those relentless swings. Just dispel it.
Yeah,
okay?
to counter this, all you need to do is just
Yeah,
dispel
it's a
it.
magic dispel, purge, and all that shit. Now, Sabotai or Sebtai or the Swift guy does something called Sleight of Hand. Now, what he'll do, he will debuff you by reducing your damage by 50% and your healing by 50% and your armor by 50% if you hit him while he has this debuff on him. Now, the only way you can stop him even getting the debuff is stunning him. So as he casts it on him, make sure you have a melee assigned, a couple of melee assigned to stun him in a rotation so he can never get this off, because otherwise it'll fuck up everyone, because his damage will stay the same and he does do quite a bit of damage. So make sure you do stun him, and then there's no ability to worry about.
Zion's extra ability is Shield of Darkness. While this is active, if you hit him, you'll take 300k damage.
You could turn it up a little bit, Sass. I'll get you 200%, so look quiet.
Yeah, this is really, really bad. This is probably the worst one out of all of them because it is literally an insta-kill
Hang on.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
it'll wipe you almost instantly. So you need
Better?
to make sure
Yeah.
that you dispel this one as well. This
Yeah.
one's just a magical buff. Just dispel it.
And the last one, Meng, he does something called Delirious. Now, this isn't necessarily a shield. All it does is double the rate he gets insanity. So this isn't done by hitting him. This is just a flat buff that he puts on himself. You have to de-enrage him for this one. So use Tranquility Shot
Or Shiv.
all that kind of stuff. Just de-enrage effects to get that off of him. Now, one good thing to counter this shield is, as it's just about to activate, just get ready to stop DPS, just until you know for a fact that it has been dispelled, because especially with Zion, that will kill you. That will...
You'll just instantly explode.
Exactly.
Everyone will die.
So you've got to really, really watch on your DBM timers, or just generally have an eye on the boss to know when that's coming in, and just not do it. And then just make sure you're assigned dispellers to dispel it.
Now, apart from the bosses obviously having these new abilities as well as having their old abilities, and their old abilities still do continue throughout the fight. However, rather than a new boss becoming active once you've killed the current boss, the new boss will become active once the previous boss has reached 30% health, which means you have to deal with 2 bosses being alive at the same time.
Now, there's not really much you can do to counter this. You've literally... That's why you have 2 tanks, so your other tank will tank this new boss and everything, but there isn't really much you can do. There's a lot you can hope for, though, and basically there's an ideal order, because this boss it's got quite a tight enrage. So the ideal order you can get is, of course, you start with Chang every single time, and then you want to have Sabotai, so you have the bow and arrow guy, then Zion, then Meng. And the reason you want this is because of the DPS timer. You don't have to waste DPS killing the orbs or getting rid of the mind control. Now, you can reset this boss by running out the room with him just before the walls spawn. I'm not sure if that's changed. They might have fixed that. But you can reset it until you make it so you can get Sabotage next. So that's something you might want to look into. So when the boss is about to transition, like 35% or whatever, you should try and make it, not necessarily stop DPS, but maybe slow down a little bit. You're going to try and make it so most of his abilities, including his shield, is either activated then before the new boss arrives, or isn't going to activate for a very long time.
So then that way, when the new boss does spawn, you're not suddenly thrown a load of abilities that are going to slow DPS or wipe you.
Exactly. Otherwise, what you want to do, as long as they aren't doing all those abilities, or if you can handle all these abilities, then you just need to nuke the shit out of that boss that's on 30% HP, and then just get him down as soon as you can, and then you only have one more boss to deal with. And this happens throughout the fight. So you will get some combos that you're going to struggle with, but you're just going to have to learn as a guild to kind of go around them.
Best time to sort of use defensive cooldowns and personal cooldowns and health stones and stuff like that is around this, when the boss does reach 30% health. because this is the most difficult part of the encounter. The new abilities that have been added, providing you know them, aren't really.
Yeah, they're nothing.
They're not really a problem. You just need to know when to stop DPS, when to dispel, and when to remove the enrage effects. That's pretty simple. It's just when there are two bosses up at the same time, you can get RNG fucked a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to really understand exactly what boss is doing what and when to use cooldowns. And
Yes.
the 30% mark is when you want to start using the raid cooldowns.
Yeah, you want to be using your DPS cooldowns as well, because you really just need to get that boss out of the fucking fight as soon as possible. But assuring that you can just do the transitions correctly, because this whole fight is literally about those 30% to 0% transitions between each boss. And as long as you can do that and make sure you don't set off the shield, then you're going to be GG. It's not too difficult. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, but you'll work around it as a guild.
So thanks for watching. Please do drop.
All right. So of all our bosses, this is the one I'm a little worried about, just knowing how we like to go Zug hard and make sure that we, get our best parts. So I said it in the TLDR. I cannot emphasize enough that this is about a controlled burst DPS windows, but you also need to understand when to stop DPS, when to not hit the bosses, when to hold your DPS. And then you're also going to need to be not in a GCD lock if it's your turn to interrupt, purge, silence, whatever it is. So we're going to have all those cooldowns sorted out, and we're also going to look at the cooldowns in between the 30% for each of those bosses. Because that, if you watch several of the videos, you'll see like that is when the raid is at the most damage. That's generally when they take the most damage. So we'll just need to work through that as best we can. There are a couple things that I need to confirm here because I am not 100% sure, but just quickly going over some of the other abilities. So we'll always start with King the Merciless. I don't know how to say his name, so sorry. He will always start out in heroic, and then after that, it is going to be a random order. It can be either Ming, Subtai, or Zion. I do agree that if we can reset to get Sabotage second, that may be something that we want to do, but I also don't know if we are actually able to reset, so we may have to just go until we get a nice order. Flanking orders,
Do we want Subtai second? Because if
that is what all the guides I've watched have suggested, but these guides
okay.
are also from 12 years ago. And the reason why is you don't want to lose DPS doing Maddening Shout or the orb
Oh yeah, true.
bobs at the end, when you're trying to like get done. So
Yeah.
I thought it was
Um,
consistent
I'm
the way
sorry.
it comes out on PTR at least.
So on normal, it's the same order. On heroic, what I've seen just based on looking at these guides and watching videos is you'll always start with King, but it can be random after that. So that is something that we're going to need to confirm. I don't know.
It
for
definitely
sure.
always starts with Kyung, but
Yeah.
after that, I think it is a set order.
Okay. Well, we'll confirm that on live when we get there. So that is just something that we got to keep in mind. If it is a set order, then that will make it easier for us to plan. But if it's not, then we'll just have to figure out what to do on the fly from that perspective. But either way, it's not going to matter. Flank, because we're still going to need to remove shields, know when to DPS, know where to stand, right? The flanking orders, what we'll do, and I didn't do a Raider IO for these bosses because there's really not much to plan from that perspective. But we will put up 4 markers around the room, and when the flanking orders come out, there's going to be 2 lines, spawn from either way. You are going to have to follow the tanks, especially with Kang up, because we all have to soak that massive attack. So make sure that you're moving with the tanks, and tanks, I want you to call what marker you're going to blue, going to purple, going to wherever. Annihilate, you saw that big cone. No one should be getting hit by that. Just move out of it. And then the impervious shield, we just need to make sure that we dispel that. I will tell you, sorry, go ahead.
Now in the quiz, which I guess only 5 people took, yeah, one of the things I wanted to bring up is like the dispel for the shield is either shattering throw or mass dispel. Nothing else works on it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because they say purge in this video, but I don't think that's right because I was looking at like, going down the Wowhead trail, the actual spell, and it does say it's not a single dispel. So we will do need to confirm that, but just knowing that it is going to be a mass dispel, so that's going to be a raven or the priest, or a shattering throw. So I don't think single target dispels or purge work. So it has a 2-second cast, so make sure you're not DPSing until it's over and been dispelled, and then good to go. Really, I don't think that's too difficult because we are going to be pretty stacked up. And then the second boss, so we'll just go through Sabatai, assuming he's going to come up second. Um, his big things are we're going to be spread out, so we are going to need to stay stacked as long as we can to soak massive attacks. We are going to try to want to move Sabatai out as much as we can. We're going to have to loose spread around that, but we're also going to have to sort of drag him around if he starts doing volley or doing rain of arrows, so that we can make sure that we're as spread as possible for that. So that's going to be a lot of like on the fly, split second decision making that you are going to need personally accountable for understanding where you need to be standing in those moments. Um, for Sabatai, he'll just charge a random player. This is the one that continues after death. He'll pillage that player and everyone in 8 yards. It just reduces the affected player's damage and healing. He's going to do a volley. It's going to start really wide and then narrows. You're probably going to take the first hit, no doubt about it. Don't take the second or third hit because it will kill you. Rain of arrows, it's going to just randomly pin you down, and it's all targets within 8 yards, and it does ticking damage until it gets removed. You can bop it off, but I think we're only going to have one bop in our raid, so good luck with that. I think you can also blink out of it and
I
maybe
believe
dispersion.
Freedom, Bop,
Yeah,
also.
does that freedom work? Okay, let me add that to notes to confirm.
I mean, you could have had 2 bops. Just saying.
I know. The melee
What we
stack was
really
full
need is
7. I'm
a
sorry.
big, strong prot paladin.
Hand of freedom.
If only we had a handicap paladin that could do that.
Yeah.
Look, as a healer enjoyer, I veto prot paladins because that reduces the amount of healing that healers can do.
I mean, then you want a prot warrior. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'll also veto that, and I veto monks. We're just gonna run double blood.
in
So
either
cloth
case,
EDK.
that player is going to need to get removed, like DPS down. It's kind of like that little side boss in Halls of Origination. You just got to free them if we don't have a bop or they don't have a mechanic to remove it. So, sleight of hand, we have to interrupt this. It's a 2-second cast, and he can be stunned. So make sure that we're stunning him, and we'll have to set up a rotation of stuns for that as well.
Just hit him with a hooge.
An ooge.
A hooge.
Zion, we're going to stay spread for this one. So this is the one where he's going to create a little friend at a location of a random player. It's got an AoE pulse, so 10 yards. It's going to fixate on the closest player when it's summoned. You just need to kite him, and we need to turn around and kill him. When we kill it, it's going to drop a pool. So whoever is kiting needs to make sure they're kiting on the very outside ring of the arena or whatever where we're at. But also, as you're doing that, make sure you're watching out for the timer on flanking orders because you don't want to be caught on the outside when they're spawning. Shadow Blast, it's launched at a random player. It does damage within 8 yards. It can be interrupted, so we can probably set up a rotation for that as well. Charge Shadows, it's just a shadow chain. I think we're just probably going to heal through this in melee. It is within 8 yards. And then the Shield of Darkness. So that one has to be purged, dispelled, whatever. And that is the one that you absolutely just can't hit him. It can't be an oops. It can't be like Omnitron, like, oh, I didn't mean to break the shield. At 300K, it's going to kill all of us. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a raid wiper for us. So just watch for that and make sure that we are doing all the things. Any questions on that? Because there's not a whole lot of like, we can do X and then do Y. Like, you just need to really understand these bosses and all their abilities. Thoughts, questions, comments?
Easy one shot.
I guess
Bro.
so.
Well, what's funny is you watch a lot of these videos, like 3/4 of the raid is dead. the very end.
Yeah, it's people don't like to sit on their hands, so they blow up the raid.
Yeah.
It's very not fun.
I think
It also
Also,
has
Meng
disc
is
dodging will be fun.
it also has a really tight enrage timer. So blowing cooldowns at the right time is going to be so important. So like at that 30% is when we're going to want to pot. We're going to want to drop our totems and all that kind of stuff. So,
When do we lost?
on
that's
the
a good
video they were
question.
doing it at once what's his name spawned, Supatai.
Supatai going into
Which I
the
think
second one.
I
Yeah.
think it's in part because they want two of them up, and also having Kyang and Supatai up at the same time is a little sketchy
hard.
because sleight of hand while you have to tank the cleave.
Yeah. And that's
So they probably
also
do it just to get rid of Kyang and
that's
do good damage.
that's probably a good idea. And the other reason why is for the most part on the other bosses, we're spread out except for when we have to run in for Maddening Shout. Did I talk about that one? Oh, Meng, I didn't talk about him, but he's not the easiest one, but he is the one that I think we can manage the most. Sorry, I didn't. So
I always
Maddening Shout
found that Meng was the most
was he
annoying and
hard?
difficult.
Well, and I think part of it is because he switches stances, like, and just trying to make sure that we try to keep him in whatever stance that we possibly can, and
Yeah,
then
we
making
don't want
sure that
him going
we're,
into cowardice because he reflects damage.
yep, and then making sure that we de-enrage him off of that delirious buff.
Yep.
So, but Maddening Shout, like, we are going to be spread for the rest of these bosses except for Maddening Shout, and then we're going to have to run in so that we can stack and then break each other out. So. We are going to probably, so this is the boss that we're going to start on heroic. I do think it'll take us some pulls, but I don't think it's like not within our grasp to do. I think once everybody understands the fights and the mechanics, it'll make it a lot easier. But let me put a note there to make sure we address list. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. We will go on to Elegon. This is another one that I think is doable on heroic. It's just going to take us a minute. I don't know if it's a week one heroic though.
It's the Fat Boss Guide to Elegon 25-man heroic in the Mogu
I
Show.
think Elegon's the
Hello.
hardest one in there.
And this encounter is very
Yeah,
similar
that's
to
what
normal
everybody
mode.
says because the
Unfortunately, there's a
enrage
couple
timer.
changes.
Unfortunately, it's going to be the same.
Yep, the enrage timer and
It's
just
still
like
gonna be- it's
execute
still a lovely
phase is a
encounter.
shit ton of
There's a
damage.
dragon, for fuck's
Yep.
sake.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, if you don't
Doesn't seem that hard if you
encounter and you don't know
just have enough free
it's
DPS.
a good idea that you click on the annotation
Yeah.
and then play in cooldown.
so you can go watch our normal guide.
Yeah. I mean, like,
we're going to sort of skip a couple of normal mode mechanics, and we're not going to talk about them too much because we presume you already.
upper planning should make it a lot
For this
easier.
fight, you want to bring 3 tanks, 5 healers, and well,
Sass, can you turn it up a bit, please?
Arguably, but it's still
Yeah.
good to bring some.
Rise, where's the unborn Valkyr spawn?
Yeah,
In
there's some
Ice Crown.
death, motherfucker. Oh, it reset.
Thought it
I
was
don't
near
think it
Ice
did.
Crown, isn't it?
Melee because of the burst.
Random
Is that
spawn
better,
in Ice
Trey?
Crown.
Otherwise, in anything really doesn't really matter.
Yeah, trying to gaslight me and shit.
Feel the strife area?
Is that in phase 1 and 2, the
Not
energy
feel
vortex
strife,
does create a line of.
Ice
Also, I don't
Crown.
even know I'm out here. It's going to be a level 25. There's no way I can
All
fucking
right, you
catch it.
knuckleheads, you realize you're talking over the video, right?
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, like I can't hear anything while you're talking.
Apologies.
All right, we'll go back.
Watch our normal guide, because we're going to sort of skip a couple of normal mode mechanics, and we're not going to talk about them too much because we presume you already know them.
Yes. Now for this fight, you want to bring 3 tanks, 5 healers, and well, range DPS is slightly better, arguably, but it's still good to bring some melee because of the burst they can provide. But otherwise, in anything really, doesn't really matter too much.
Now, the first thing for you to know about this encounter on heroic is that in phase 1 and 2, the energy vortex does create a line of sight. So, for example, if you're inside the energy vortex and you're trying to damage or heal something on the outside of it, then you also will have to be outside.
Yeah.
Vice versa. So yeah, that's the main problem in this encounter.
Yeah, and it is key on how you counter some mechanics, which we'll cover phase by phase. And starting off with phase 1. Now, phase 1 is practically the same. The only thing you have to change is the add. So you still want to drop your stacks around 7 to 10 things, but the add, the Celestial Protector, spawns more frequently. Now, it still does its arcane energy, but instead of 5 players, it goes on to 7. So it does. Yeah, it's a bit
just
more...
dispel it. Simple as that.
Just try and dispel it as much as you can. Now, of course, it still does its pulsing AoE after 25% HP. So what you want to do is that you want to drag him out and have your DPS finish him off outside the vortex, which means they have to leave with him. However, now once he dies, he does something called Total Annihilation. Now, this does 550k damage to anyone who is wherever he is. So if they're outside the vortex, 550k outside the vortex. If he's inside the vortex because you've done it wrong, you're gonna die.
Yeah, so it has to die outside the vortex.
However, if nobody takes this damage, he will then do 950k damage to everyone in the raid regardless of their position. Yay! So that can't happen. What you need to make sure that you do is that you have 3 players take the damage. It's kind of like you've got to sort out like Hour of Twilight, similar to Old Traxion. That's how you've got to sort it out. Preferably a 3 DPS, such as Locks, Shadow Priests, Mages, Rogues, Hunters, all that kind of stuff. Anyone who really has like a big damage reduction on them. But if you need a healer, like a paladin or something for a group, then that will work as well. Now, after you take the damage, you are left with 2 debuffs. One is Destabilizing Energy. Now, you are stunned and take 50k damage every 2 seconds until healed to 80% health. Now, healers have to make sure that they get these people up as soon as possible. However, the idea is that when you do take the damage, you don't go below 80% HP because you're going to be using stuff like Dispersion or Cloak of Shadows. So that's why you want them sort of DPS outside.
And obviously, if you don't go below 80% health, then you don't get the debuff at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the key thing there.
Now you're also left with a destabilized debuff. Now this makes it so you can't take a Total Annihilation for the next 2 minutes, also similar to kind of Old Traxion Heroic. So yeah, if you try and take that, you will just insta-die. Now because of this, you need to make 4 groups of players, of 3 players, so 12 players in total, who have ways of mitigating this annihilation damage. So and then you each take turns. So group 1 will be on the first one out, second one out, third one out, fourth one out, and then back to the first one out. Yeah, so basically you just got to remember that there is a line of sight across the vortex. It's very, very important. So you will need to leave the vortex in order to finish off this ad, which is very important that you have to kill it very quickly because of the pulsing AoE. So yeah, this is also a good time to drop your stacks as well, which we want to be doing quite frequently because of the amount of damage in this phase is crazy.
So for the tanks in this fight, you want 2 tanks to be on Elegon and 1 tank to be on the ads. Now the tank that is pulling out the ad needs to make sure that he never takes the explosion. Because it's not really a good idea because he needs to get back in to pick up another ad.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to be fucking around. And as soon as the ad starts casting Total Annihilation, he needs to run back in and pick it up. Yeah. That's pretty much how it works. The ads will almost spawn constantly.
So you just got to make sure that once the tank has gone back in, that you do have your 3 DPS outside. But literally, as soon as one ad dies, the next one has spawned most likely, unless your DPS is somehow shit hot.
Now the 2 tanks that are on Elegon should be switching around 5 to 7 stacks. And just as an example, you'll have 1 tank drop the stacks and then come back and tank the boss as soon as he's dropped his stack. And the other tank that was previously tanking Elegon shouldn't go and panic drop his stacks. He should then use this moment, because he's got such high vengeance, to try and DPS the boss as much as possible, because
there isn't a lot of raid damage going out at this point.
Yeah, there isn't a massive amount of raid damage going out, but it's the DPS race. The boss is still very much a DPS race.
It's a huge DPS race.
And then once you have DPS the boss for so long, then obviously go drop your stacks and just keep repeating the process until phase 2.
Now phase 2 practically is the same. It starts at 85% and you still get the wave of ads. Now they are the same ads, but they have a little bit more HP and they do a bit more damage on death. So what you should be aiming for is about 5 waves of ads, and then this will give the boss 6 stacks, because the boss gains stacks when he casts draw power, not when the ads die. So you should be aiming for about 6 stacks on the boss. If you can do more, then of course do more, but it isn't really easy. And also, once again, you want to set up groups so that they're going to be between 2 pylons in phase 3, so similar to what you do in normal mode. Now remember, during this phase, Elegon is damageable, and this is so important. Now you should continue to dot him up, and when you decide to let a wave of ads through, just nuke the shit out of him and just ignore the ads. And of course, it is still very important between each wave of ads, considering they do a bit more damage on heroic than they do on normal, that you reset your stacks each time you kill 1 wave of ads.
Now, phase 3, it works exactly the same way as normal. You just want to make sure that you've got people killing the pylons as quick as possible. They are your focus, they're the most important targets, and as soon as they're all dead, that's when you switch to the ads. There's no other changes apart from that. And then obviously, it'll then go back to phase 1. And the phase 1 will then be exactly the same as the previous phase 1, except it now ends at 50%. You'll have phase 2 again, which is exactly the same as normal mode phase 2, as we just described, and the same with phase 3. And then you'll get the last phase.
Now, when you enter this last phase 1, you want to have the boss at least 35% health, which means that you're going to have to be doing a shit ton of damage to him during the second phase. You really, if you go into that phase of any higher, either he's going to kill you via AoE or he's going to berserk. So, yeah, there's no real way around it. So what you want to do for this phase, the same as we do on normal 25-man, you stack up and completely just kill him.
Yeah, just heal your tits off and use all your personal cooldowns and all your DPS cooldowns. And I mean, at this point in the fight, the boss should have at least 12 stacks on him, which means he's taking 120% more damage. So yeah, just nuke your tits off and hope that you kill him before he kills you.
Yeah, so you will probably have a bunch of 1% wipes, but you'll eventually be able to whittle it down, and that's actually practically the fight. It's very similar to normal, but it's still, I like the changes.
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
line
just
of
to wrap it up very, very quickly, it's just differences in phase 1.
Yeah,
more or less the rest of the fight is the same. So if this guide did help you out, please do drop a thumbs up.
Okay. Really, that fight is going to be about making sure you know where you got to go for what pylon. There's not a whole lot. We'll have to assign soakers. You do have to have groups of 3, and I think we could probably do 4, but I don't know. I haven't done the math on that. Kill the balls. I know you guys are good at that. Gives them a stacking debuff, and then once you kill the pylons, it just restarts phase 1. It's all about just doing as much damage as you possibly can and just always be casting. So the big thing will be not zoning out and taking way many more debuffs than you can handle. So the 7 to 10 it gets noticeably different at 10. The only question I do have is since we'll need 3 tanks, who's our third tank?
Satcha, no longer me.
Oh. Okay.
It's me.
Rip.
Something I did see is if you lust on pull and then you immediately phase them whenever there's only one ad that spawns, then you can do it like, yeah, you can basically I think Flexi solo tanked it, but I don't know. I think it would be nice for the enrage though.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
to
I
take note
can't
of.
tell when those ads or how, like, what is the increase in timer from the ad spawning. I mean, just based on watching that video, it looked like they were spawning like one after another, but I don't really know either. So,
But whenever I
so
did it on PTR, only like one spawned, and we lusted on pull.
oh, okay. Well then, yeah, maybe.
So we just phase it that quickly.
What did you do for the second phase? Because that would have taken you to 85%, right?
You just DPS it.
Well, but I guess at that point, you have the debuffs from the draw power up on him, so it's a shorter phase. I get what you're saying. Okay. Put it in there as an idea. Any questions? Any comments? My professional self says you always wait 10 seconds and then you move on. All right. Last boss is Will of the Emperor. I'm going to tell you, I think this may be a few weeks of heroic gear and then we can kill this boss, but maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot going on. So.
Well, I mean, I think this one doesn't change that much. I think it's
No, you're right.
easier than Four Kings and Elegon.
So
It's really
I
just
think
an ad fight.
Yeah.
It's a mad fight, and it's a damage, I think, because Titan gas is down all the time now. But you're also doing more damage while they're also DPS, you know what I mean? While the ads are also getting the debuff. I think the
Mhm.
thing that will be hard for us is controlling those Titan sparks because those are now going to spawn for every ad that we kill. And
Yeah,
just
and
making sure that we
we
blow
have
them up
somebody
out of the
soak
raid.
them, like,
Yep. Like
Rogue.
dispersion. Yeah.
I
Have everyone stand in the middle of the raid or
Yep.
in middle of the dungeon or
room.
Room. Yeah, sorry.
and then they just go to the same spot.
No, exactly right. The only other thing I think will is just making sure one or all the melee, because I'm unclear on do all the melee go on the bosses and do the dance, or does only one or two melee go on the bosses and do the dance for devastating combo, just to get that extra action button. You know what I mean? So, all right, let's watch the video and then we can talk about it. It looks like a fun as fuck fight, though. I will say that.
The Vat Boss Guide to Will of the Emperor 25.
Let me make sure that it didn't reset the volume mixer.
5-man heroic in the Mogushan Vaults.
Yes, the last boss of this wonderful tier, and it's a bit of a ball ache still. It's better than normal though. It's a lot less boring than normal, but it's a lot really fucking hard.
It's very, very challenging.
So yeah, you're gonna struggle on this. Now, if you haven't seen the normal mode guide to this fight, then please do click up on the annotations, as we won't be covering each individual ability by like the old abilities on normal mode and stuff like that. So just go click up on them, and it'll save us everyone a lot of time.
Now, for this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 5 healers. 2 DPS tanks,
which we covered in normal.
For the ads. The rest of the DPS, you can just use a mixed setup.
Now, the changes in this fight, which there are quite a few of, we're going to start off with the Titan gas, which is the gas that fills the room, does ticking damage, and increases everyone's, including the boss's, melee damage by 25%. This is permanent. This is throughout the whole fight. You will have this fucking gas on the floor. So your healers are going to have to work harder, and everyone's going to be taking more damage.
The devastating combo is now a series of 10 spells rather than 5. However, the reward is now doubled.
Yes.
So rather than dealing 500k, you do 1 million.
Yes, which is very nice if you're any good at dodging that shit. Now, the main thing that has changed in this fight, though, is the Titan Sparks. Now, Titan Sparks spawn once an ad dies. Now, this spark will fixate on a random player and start to move towards them. And if it gets within 8 yards of any player, the spark will explode, doing 750k damage. And if there are any nearby constructs, it will give them a 50% attack speed buff, including the bosses. The bosses count as constructs. So that's not that good. This one mechanic really changes how you have to do the entire fight. So as we said, you do have to change the way you deal with every single ad. And first off, we're going to talk about the rages. Now, with the rages, what you need to do is, of course, they spawn in sets of 4. Now, for the first set that spawns, you want to CC all of them. All 4 of them need to be CC'd. And then when the next set spawns, so then you'll have 8 altogether, you want to AoE them. Now, once they all die, they have to, of course, die away from the group. So you might want to use Death Knight mass scripts to shit, as long as they pop a cooldown so they won't get completely raped. As long as they all die at the same time, there'll be 8 sparks left. Now, what you want to do, you want to have one person run in and soak all 8 sparks. Now, what you should really do is use 3 hunters on a rotation to go in and to soak them all up. You only need 2 hunters. However, if one of your hunters doesn't manage to soak all of them up, then you always have that backup hunter to go soak up that one more, because otherwise it's going to run to your raid and kill everyone.
So it's as simple as CCing the first set, using things like Ring of Frost, AoE grip, stuff like that. Just anything to keep them in place, keep them CC'd until the next set spawn. Now that there's 8 up, you just need to AoE the living shit out of them and send a hunter running in with deterrence.
Yes, practically.
Now, the courages work exactly the same. 2 will still spawn at the exact same time on the left and the right hand side of the room, and they'll both focus the tank that's standing furthest away, just like normal mode. However, obviously, because it is heroic, when they die, a spark will still spawn, and you need to create some sort of rotation within your melee groups of who is soaking this. And really, if you can have only 2 people from each group, so 4 people in total doing the sparks, and that's brilliant, but you might not have the classes to actually do it. Rogues are great for it, monks are also really great for it, but you know, if you do need to use other people, you can use raid cooldowns from people like disc priests or, you know, people like that to cover it.
But it's ideal because rogues have they have Cloak of Shadows and Cheat Death as well, as long as they spec into those sort of things, so that can really work for this fight. Now, one tactic for this as well is kind of a little bit cheeky, is referring to the 2 DPS tanks you have. Now, what you want to make them do is actually go in tank spec. this will actually make it so the courages don't focus on the 2 tanks that are tanking the bosses. They'll actually go over towards the strength tanks. Now, they can be in any gear, it doesn't matter, because the courages will die before they hit them, and they shouldn't be taking any damage from the strengths because they can avoid everything. This will make it so the ranged DPS can actually get easier DPS out on the courages because of where they switch over. It just makes a lot more sense. As well as the sparks won't be spawning anywhere near the bosses, so there's no chance that the sparks are going to give the bosses a 50% attack speed buff. So you can do this tactic, and it doesn't really change much. Of course, there'll be a little bit less DPS on the strengths, but it shouldn't be really anything to worry about. But it's a very clever little thing you can do. Yes.
If you are having issues with the courages, then that is something that you should definitely try. Now, as for the strengths themselves, for this you kind of want to have 6 assigned soakers. You want to have 3 for each ad. Anyone who can soak, so yeah.
Yeah, you need to have a 2-minute cooldown, which you can soak the thing when it explodes. So once a strength dies, just make sure you're calling when it dies, and you can just go over there and pick it up. Now, there are also points in the fight where the ads will stop spawning, and this is the times when the gas would have spawned in normal mode. Because of this, you can use this to your advantage in order to get more DPS out on the boss. Now, the way that you do it is just make sure that if the rages that would have been there, they're either dead now or you have CC'd them. That just gives you a lot of uptime on the boss because it is a tight fight because of the soft enrage, really, which is when the ads don't stop spawning. They just continuously spawn and you get fucked hard.
Yeah.
If you do hit this soft enrage, you haven't got long, but you can just say fuck the ads and then just try and nuke the shit out the boss.
Yeah, so you just want to be slowing all the ads and kiting them and doing all the CC you can possible on them while,
trying to nuke
the boss before all the ads murder you.
Yeah, but ideally you shouldn't hit that soft enrage.
So to cover up the fight, really, all it is just covering the sparks and just making sure that you have your rotation perfected, because it is a repetitive fight. However, it does become very, very tight, like we say. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Cover the sparks, make sure you deal with the ads properly, and you shouldn't have too many problems.
So thanks for watching, guys. If this guide did help you out, then please do give us a like. It helps us out significantly.
Okay. So just a question, because I haven't done these fights, but so are melee on the main bosses, or are they the ones that are killing the courages and the strengths?
Basically,
Depends if they
everyone,
can dodge.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't dodge, there's no point in you being on them, so you can be put on ad duty.
Okay.
what I've
But also,
heard is
go on.
everyone is on ads except for unless they're all dead, and then you go on boss, and it's just a very slow, boring fight.
Yeah, I don't know how often those ads spawn. Let me see.
All the time.
Nonstop.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a nonstop. Talk amongst yourselves. Hang on. I mean, I think what I would say is there's probably a what do you call, like a window where those rages are CC'd and the courages and the strengths haven't spawned yet. You know what I mean? So we haven't done the double for that maybe. But yeah, so we are going to have to make some assignments to DPS. I mean, the range are going to stand in the middle. We're not going to move unless you're assigned to go and soak a Titan Spark, but we are going to have to just try to assign some DPS around. And then the other question I have is the extra action button. If you do the dodge, can 3 people use it, or is it just one button per one player in the whole raid?
I think everyone can.
Every person that
use it.
successfully does it gets it.
Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if we can make sure that we have some dodgers. And I will admit, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it because I'm not melee, but there are animations with if he's over his right shoulder, he's going left, and vice versa. And then if he's in the middle, he's going down the center. So if you are melee and you do plan to be able to try to be in the dodging zone, I would watch some videos that have a melee point of view so you can know what that's going to look like. I don't know if Foji's WeakCore is going to call it out because we didn't get this far, I don't think. And I don't think it was working when we got on the beta for this. So just something to keep in mind too from that perspective. And that is Mogoshan Vaults. We will do the first 3 bosses on Heroic. I think that's completely doable. We will probably prog on Spirit Kings, and then I do expect that we'll probably prog pretty quickly after that. I do appreciate everybody joining these. I think I know it seems like, holy crap, we're like 21 days away from this raid. Why are we talking about this now? Or 27 days. The more research you do and the more that you understand the stuff, the better off you're going to be and the better off we're going to be. So we still have to work through cooldowns and all that. So we will be doing that once the sheet arrives, if it ever arrives, fucking Jordy. And then we'll publish that sheet in plenty of time for people to talk about it.
Really quick, since Watch Party is over, Ultraxion is fixed. There are multiple logs on top of the one that Char linked with Ultraxion being done. Would you guys still like to go in for an hour and 15 minutes and knock it out, or would you rather wait until Thursday?
Thursday.
I would say Thursday, just in case.
Okay.